Okay, so when you think about cannabis in the U.S. today, it feels like it's everywhere, right? Legal shops, different strains.
Totally. It's a completely different landscape now.
But here's a wild fact.
Hmm?
For decades, pretty much all the weed smoked in the U.S. came from just one place, Mexico.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the story that maybe gets overlooked now. We're talking about the era of brickweed.
Mm,
Mexico didn't just supply some weed, they basically built the American habit for a long time.
exactly. We've been reading this great piece from NuggNotes, She's a Brick House, How Mexico Built America's Weed Habit. And that's our mission today.
Hmm.
Understand this whole phenomenon.
Right. What was this brickweed? How did Mexico get so dominant? And, what happened? Why did it fade away?
Okay, let's dive in. First off, what are we picturing when we say brickweed? Describe it for us.
Well, imagine cannabis grown outdoors, under the sun, harvested in bulk. Then it was dried, packed together, and compressed, like really compressed, often using hydraulic presses.
Impressed into bricks, hence the name.
Pretty much. And sometimes to try and mask that strong smell for smuggling, it was apparently even soaked in gasoline.
Gasoline, wow. That explains some of the slang, I guess. The article listed things like Schwag, dirtweed, even brown frown.
Yeah, brown frown, Reggie, ditchweed, lots of, let's say, unflattering names. And that compression, it did a number on the plant itself.
How so? What did it do to the actual, quality?
It made it really brittle, often brownish green instead of vibrant green. The pressure just crushed the trichomes, those little crystals holding the THC and good stuff.
Ah, okay.
And the terpenes, the things that give cannabis its smell and flavor, pretty much gone. So you
Right.
ended up with low THC, maybe 5–10%, and a taste that was, well, usually harsh.
Harsh, low potency,
Yeah.
but it still sold. The article says it moved.
Oh, absolutely. In
Yeah.
massive quantities. That's where the whole smuggling machine kicks in. It was sophisticated.
Tell us about that. How did they get so much across the border?
It evolved over time. You had trap cars with hidden compartments, then semi-trucks packed floor to ceiling, cargo containers, even boats running loads up the Pacific coast. The scale was pretty staggering.
It sounds like a major logistical operation.
It really was. Distribution inside the U.S. used trucks, trains, sometimes tunnels dug under the border, even hiding bricks inside, like crates of fruit or vegetables.
Ingenious, in a way.
Yeah.
Where was most of it coming in?
Key spots were California, Texas, Arizona. The article highlights the San Ysidro border crossing south of San Diego. Apparently, like 60% of all U.S. Mexico border traffic went through there at one point, and shipments weren't small. We're talking thousands of pounds at a time.
Thousands of pounds. So why Mexico? What made them the source for so long?
A few big reasons. One is just geography, right? They share a huge border with the U.S., easy access.
Makes sense.
Plus, they tapped into smuggling networks that were already there, some dating back to alcohol prohibition. And crucially, back then, there was almost zero large-scale cannabis farming in the U.S. itself. The laws were incredibly strict, lots of crackdowns.
So no real domestic competition.
Exactly. And Mexico's climate.
Yeah.
Perfect for growing year-round, multiple harvests. They set up these enormous outdoor farms, used cheap labor, and eventually the cartels got heavily involved, really industrializing the production and export.
And they had the market cornered.
Pretty much. In the 70s and 80s, estimates are they supplied up to like 95% of all weed in the U.S., and the price at the border was incredibly low, maybe $30 or $40 a kilo.
95%. That's dominance. But given the quality issues we talked about, why did people keep buying it?
Two main things: price and availability. It was cheap. An ounce might have cost, say, $60 back in the day, which is, I don't know, maybe $500 equivalent today. Significantly less than other options when they even existed.
So price trumped quality for a lot of folks.
For many, yeah. And it was always available thanks to those year-round harvests in Mexico. Domestic stuff, when you could find it, was often seasonal. Brickweed was just reliably there.
Okay, so it ruled the market for decades. What changed? Because obviously things are very different now.
The shift really started picking up steam in the mid-2000s. The biggest factor, state-level legalization in the U.S. Places like California, Colorado, they started allowing legal cultivation and sales.
Ah, so legal domestic supply started competing.
Exactly, and it was generally much higher quality. Suddenly, consumers had options, and you see it in the seizure numbers. The article mentions a staggering 98% drop in seized Mexican weed at the border between 2014 and 2023.
98%, wow.
Yeah, from around 2.4 million pounds down to just 61,000 pounds. Now, Mexican brickweed is probably less than 5% of the U.S. market, mostly found in states that haven't legalized yet.
It's almost completely vanished market-wise. And there's a kind of funny twist now,
A
Rana.
total irony. Now you have high-end legal cannabis grown indoors in California being smuggled south into Mexico for consumers there who want the fancy stuff.
So the whole flow has reversed in a way.
It really has. Mexico went from being the main supplier to, for some products, being the customer. And that old brickweed, it's becoming, like the article says, cannabis folklore, a story from another era.
So wrapping up, Mexico's role was just foundational, wasn't it? They established the mass market for cannabis in the U.S. through this incredibly cheap, available, if not exactly high-quality, brickweed. The sheer scale is hard to grasp.
It really is, and it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Even with today's focus on craft strains and, THC percentages, you have to wonder if that old brickweed legacy that focused on volume, on price, maybe still echoes somewhere in the market today. Something for you to ponder.